Hey guys, it's Kwana back again with another review. So sorry I am late with this week's This Is Us episode recap and review, but I have just had a ton of things going on, not to mention as a teacher, I am heading back into the classroom next week. Well, this week I came back, and this coming up week I'll have kids. So it's been crazy, but I definitely wanted to talk about this week's episode and the humongous Grey's Anatomy crossover that we had in this week's episode that I'm not really seeing a lot of people talk about. So before we get started, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button down below, give this video a like, and come back and comment for the good conversation, the good dialogue. Let me know what you think, what you thought about the episode down below in the comments. And yeah, spoilers for this week's episode in the room. So this week's episode was not really a fast-paced episode, but we got a lot of good moments in this episode, which I really, really enjoyed. And we, of course, had that really big Grey's Anatomy crossover event. So we pick up right where we left off in last week's episode with Madison in labor and Ellie in labor with Kate and Toby's baby that they will be adopting. And of course, we know Randall and Beth are driving back home from New Orleans, and they are on the line with Madison trying to talk her through this birth while Kevin is still MIA. And we actually spend a great deal of the episode not knowing if Kevin is going to make it back or not. We also pick up with this really weird story about this couple that we've never met before, Nasir and Esther. Nasir is an Indian American who is working in the technology field, and he meets this lady Esther. They're in New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, and she's from Argentina, and they meet and they fall in love, and we kind of see sprinklings of them throughout the episode. And we just know that he's working on some tech. That's pretty much all we know, but we get to see how cute they are together. And they have a really cute little romance, and it's a really cute connection. I, for one, spent the whole episode like trying to figure out if they were somehow connected to Miguel, but then I was like, well, wait a second, because we don't really get Miguel's ethnic background. And of course, being that the mom, or Esther, is from Argentina, it could very well be, but the time period didn't seem like it would fit with Miguel. So that was a little weird. But then we get more of Madison. Randall is trying to cheer her up. And in the flashbacks, we're actually with the younger teenagers of the big three. And they're supposed to be going to the cabin with Jack and Rebecca. But they're being teenagers. They don't want to go. They want to go hang out with their friends. So Rebecca's like, yo, we can have this as like a romantic getaway. So she and Jack head over to the cabin, and you know, she's kind of cracking jokes talking about the kids and how they're grumpy, moody teenagers. And they get there and the cabin is leaking water, and some of the kids' young artwork is damaged. And she's trying to take it in stride. She's just like, you know, it's not like it's the, you know, Met Gala, and we're not going to be able to save every piece of art that, you know, they've ever made, so it's not that big of a deal. But Jack is really in his feelings about this, and he's like, you've been ragging on our kids all weekend long. You can see that he's approaching like the empty nester blues, where he doesn't want the kids to grow up. And in terms of the timeline, based on the ages of the kids, you know, even though they're the younger kids, they're supposed to be like 13, 14. So he's only a good 3 years away from the big event, the big Super Bowl Sunday event. So yeah, he really doesn't have a lot of time with the kids. But you know, Rebecca's taking it in stride. She's just like, the kids are going to grow up, and you know, it's going to be okay. They're going to always be our kids, even when they grow up. Back in the current timeline, we see that Ellie's in labor. She's trying to alert the nursing staff to, hey, like, Kate's the mom, and you need to give the baby to her when the baby is born. And I have been getting vibes that like Ellie was not going to give Kate and Toby this baby, and they were going to, you know, pull an event that happens in another show that has a very similar crowd to This Is Us, so I will not spoil it. But if you watch this show happens on ABC, and a very similar storyline happens, but they don't get the baby. And so, yeah, I've been thinking Ellie was going to do this all season long. Toby, because of the COVID, is out in the parking lot. And this is where we get our Grey's Anatomy crossover event, guys. So spoilers for Grey's Anatomy season 8, maybe? Is it season 8 or season 6? I can't remember what season it is, but spoilers for somewhere between season 6 and season 10, because that's when it happens. So we get a cameo with Michael O'Neill from Council of Dads, and he also played the shooter on Grey's Anatomy. You remember if there was a mass shooting in the Gray Sloan Memorial Hospital? Well, before it was Gray Sloan Memorial. And there's a shooting event that happens. His wife gets killed, or not gets killed, but the doctors aren't able to save his wife. And so he gets a gun and he shoots up the hospital and kills a bunch of the interns. And so in the episode, Mandy Moore is a patient of Miranda Bailey, and he goes into the room. He thinks that Mandy Moore's character is dead because Bailey told her to hide and hold her breath and covers her up like she's dead. Bailey is hiding under the bed, and then she lies and says that she's a nurse. And of course, because she's a Black female, he doesn't think that she's a doctor. But then one of the surgical interns comes in, Charles Percy. I don't know if you guys remember this if you watch Grey's Anatomy. But he comes out and he's like, "Are you a doctor?" And he doesn't know who the guy is. And so he's like, "Yes." And he shoots Charles. And then after he leaves, Bailey and Mandy Moore's character, Mary, have to drag Charles' body over to the elevators to try to get him help. But the elevators are turned off and he dies. And they're holding his hand. And it is like literally one of the most gut-wrenching episodes of Grey's Anatomy ever. Particularly because of that scene of Miranda coming to terms with she's not going to be able to save, this student who she's been training. And he was just such a great guy anyway. So it was really, really sweet. We have that crossover because here's Michael Moore now on Mandy Moore's show playing this character of this guy whose wife is in the hospital and he's sick with COVID. And so he's old and he can't go in to be with her. He wants Toby's parking spot, and once Toby tells him why he's there, he of course gives him up because he's Tobes and he's super sweet. And so they trade stories about why they're at the hospital. Toby, of course, is there to meet his daughter once she arrives, and he is tasked with picking her middle name. So they exchange a bunch of background information. He finds out about Michael O'Neill's wife's Michael O'Neill's character on the show is Arlo, and so he finds out about Arlo's Rose and how she likes to collect all these pigs and they're supposed to be good luck, and so he gives one of the pigs to Toby when the baby's about to be born for good luck, and it's just super, super sweet. Back in Madison's room, Randall is regaling her with stories of like Kevin when they were teenagers, and he talks about this time he saved Kevin after he sneaks in late, and he's like doing air guitar butt naked, and he's telling the story about how they should have started a band, like a brother band like Hanson, which is just such a sweet story. And it reminds us that even though Kevin and Randall are in a bad time, and I blame the show for this because they've mostly shown bad incidences with Kevin and Randall in the past as well, that they actually had some really nice moments, and they were brothers, and a lot of it was just sibling rivalry. I cannot talk. Sibling rivalry. So it was really, really sweet, that story he's telling. And right at the end of the story, Kevin walks in the room. Now I'm going to be honest. I got little butterflies in my stomach because I thought Kevin was going to be actually mad at Randall. Like, "Oh, you're in here and you're trying to one-up me." But he was really appreciative of Randall being there for his fiance and his soon-to-be babies. The babies are born and they name them Nikki and Franny. Franny after Madison's grandmother, and of course Nikki after Uncle Nicky, which is so sweet, especially when he calls Uncle Nicky, because we haven't seen Uncle Nicky much. We didn't know what was going on with him. So it was nice to get a chance to see Uncle Nicky and to know that like there's a Jack and there's a Nikki that gets to continue in the Pearson line, and that's really, really sweet. Kevin eventually calls Randall and they basically make peace, but they do talk about the fact that they are going to eventually hash all this out, and Kevin's going to be there and he's going to listen for the things that maybe he missed growing up, and Randall's going to try to be there for him. And it's nice to see that they're patching things up. What was said between the two of them was extremely hurtful. It cannot be just brushed aside, but they are family and they have to make amends. They need to make amends in order for their family to continue and thrive and be healthy. Ellie gives birth to little Haley, and there were some touch and go moments where I just knew, oh my gosh, this woman is going to keep this baby and it's going to devastate Kate and Toby. She asked for a private moment with the baby, and I suspect, knowing Kate and Toby the way that they are, that actually Ellie is going to become a fixture in the family. I think she's going to give Haley to them, but they're going to let it be an open adoption. I think she's going to grow up, Haley's going to grow up knowing this is my birth mom and this is my mom, which is kind of the best of both worlds, because she's going to always wonder, and if she finds out later, you kept one daughter, but you couldn't keep me, and not know that story, it would hurt. But it's kind of, I think, going to be a repair to what we've seen go on in Randall's life, the fact that he didn't get to know his mother's story until it was too late. And I think if they're able to keep Ellie involved, it'll be really, really nice, because then Haley will grow up knowing her whole family's saga, so to speak. And then we have her middle name, which is Rose, Haley Rose, after Arlo's Rose, who makes it, who is recovering from COVID and doing well. And so it'd be nice to see a little nod to them later. I'm okay if we don't. I'm not one of the fans who thinks that every single connection that the show makes has to connect back to the Pearsons or has to become a lifelong member, or of their family. I think sometimes people just come into our lives for a moment and they inspire us and they give us hope. And that's what Arlo is for Toby, right? He's just hope for them. But it was a really sweet, touching moment and redemption for Michael O'Neill, because he is always playing a bad guy character. Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, he's just always playing a bad guy character, except for Council of Dads. But it's nice to see him kind of make this bounce back and be a good guy for once. And then we get back to Nasir and Esther, who we find out basically comes up with the algorithm that allows us to have this moment that we're having right now, that allows us to FaceTime, that allows us to video conference, that allows me to make YouTube videos. He's the guy, he and his team are the ones who, perfected or, worked on this software to make imaging possible using computers and using this kind of technology. And he's still alive and he's still married. He and his wife have been married for 56 years. They video conferenced with them to find out their story, which is so sweet. And I thought also a full circle moment for the show, because the show's initial premise, we didn't know it was going to be about a family. We knew it was going to be about the fact that X amount of millions of people have birthdays on the same date, and people are connected in all of these different ways, and we're going to find out about these people who are connected. I actually thought the show was going to be kind of a little bit like Heroes, but without the supernatural element, all these people who connect, and I thought it was going to be different storylines, or it was going to branch out. And then we got the reveal of the family, these triplets and their dad, and they all have the same birthday, which is great. And I love the Pearsons and I love the storyline. But I don't know about you, but if you were like me and you initially thought it was going to be something a little different, it was nice to see this moment come back where we're just seeing this one story of this guy who connects to all of us. We all have a connection to this guy. And because of him, we've been able to connect with our families during this crisis. And we got the chance to see the families all using the technology in various ways. They get to show the new big three picture. I mean, they're babies, they can't see the pictures, but they get to show the new big three to the family, and the whole family, the whole thing is the family is separated, and this technology brings them together. So it was really, really a touching episode. Not a lot of high action. I mean, but it was really sweet. And I think it was very necessary to remember that for as large as our world has gotten, as spread out as families are, technology has enabled us to be closer than ever before. And that's really, really a great message for this story to give us, guys.
Hi, Mommy. Hi, Mom.
Sorry about that. Little person was trying to interrupt the end of the video. But guys, this was a really nice episode. Now I got butterflies about next week's episode because it's another flashback to a moment that we've kind of seen. And I feel like they're running out of ideas of how to tie in Jack and Rebecca's storylines and how to keep Jack involved in the show. In terms of the past. So, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about next week's episode, just to kind of see like this first car ride home. But I feel like the show really, I hate to say this, I feel like the show is really wrapping up. I thought that we were going to get 6 seasons, and maybe they are going to find a way to give us 6 seasons, but I'm not sure if it's been fully announced if this is the last season. So let me know down in the comments below if you know exactly when the last season of This Is Us is going to be. But yeah, it feels like it's wrapping up because it's all of the issues that we're getting in the past are kind of issues that are being recycled in one sense. So, what am I hoping for the rest of the season? We really haven't seen a lot of Randall and Beth's kids, and I would really like to see more about them. The babies are cute and sweet. Of course, I want to see Kevin trying to tackle being a dad because that's new, but we've already kind of seen that with Toby and Kate, so I'm not sure how much I'm going to really care about seeing them trying to navigate being a mom and parent to Haley Rose, because they kind of already know how to do that, but I'm sure they'll find out some ways. But really what I would like to see This Is Us do before the end of the show, please, they gave us some nice little touches of Miguel and Rebecca. We find out that they got married in Puerto Rico, and I don't think we knew that before, but we still know very little about Miguel, very little for him to be such a major character on this show. And I think it's high time that we get some of Miguel. We don't have a Miguel backstory. We have at least a Beth backstory, and we even got a Toby backstory, but I don't think we got a full Miguel backstory, and that would be really nice. And also just like a date, like let us see their first date. I understand why they didn't want to do it early on because fans were so tied to Jack and Rebecca being like this, epic romance. But it seems like Miguel and Rebecca are pretty epic as well. So give them a first date episode, Let us see their first date. I think that would be really, really touching. And that's all I have for today. So I apologize again for this episode being late. I hope you enjoy it. Watch it all the way through. Comment, share, subscribe down below, all that good stuff. And I will hopefully see you next Tuesday. Until then, toodles.